Welcome to part 2 of my tutorial detailing the techniques I used to create my Release the Kraken logo. If you've not already done so, I recommend that you watch part 1 where I use custom brushes to create the tentacles. This video will focus on making the custom lettering. What you see here is a typeface called Capital Bold. I've tightened up the spacing, used warp to curve the baseline, then used offset and pathfinder to create custom insets. This is what the word Kraken looks like just as I typed it. The font comes only in all caps with a fairly wide set between each letter. The first step is to tighten up the letter spacing. Command or Control T brings up the character palette. This field here controls letter space. Positive numbers add space, negative numbers subtract space. If I click on the word in the preview mode, I can see both the distorted and undistorted versions at the same time. If I do want to make a change, I find that going to Effect, Warp, Flag results in a warning asking me if I want to put an effect over the existing effect. This reminds me that the appropriate way to do this is to go to Window, Appearance, where I can access what I want by clicking on Warp, Flag. The Warp Options box has 3 controls that change various aspects of the distortion. If the preview button is turned on, I can see the changes in real time. The best way to get comfortable with what these controls do is just to play around with them. For the next step in the process, the distortion needs to be made permanent. This is accomplished by going to Object, Expand Appearance. Taking a look in the outline view shows that it's no longer a warp that I can go back and change. Before moving on, I'm going to take the Kraken that's still in typeface form and drag it off the canvas. This way, if I ever have to come back to this project, I don't have to rack my brain trying to remember what typeface I used. I can just highlight this word and the characters palette will tell me the name of the font. When I click on any one letter, the whole word is selected because the individual letters are grouped together. This is going to cause problems with what I want to do next. The first step in resolving this issue is to ungroup the letters. Then select them all and go to Object, Compound Path, Make. Now when I click on one letter, they're all selected, just as before. The difference is that grouped means several objects tied together. A compound path, on the other hand, is one object made up of several paths. It's a subtle difference, but an important one, because the pathfinder function works on compound objects, but not grouped objects. Switch to the outline view and go to Object, Path, Offset Path. I know this value is going to work, but it's not the default setting. Entering another value and clicking the preview button gets this result. Notice how this is working. Rather than outlining each individual letter, as it would do with a grouped object, the offset path function sees all the letters as one object because it's a compound path, just one object with 7 parts. I want the offset to be on the inside rather than the outside. A value of negative 0.05 is an inset that will work nicely. A quick check to make sure these are not grouped. They're not, so it's all good. With the black selection tool, hold down the Option key and click on the inset path and drag away from it slightly. Notice the cursor turns into a double arrow, which indicates that the drag action is not moving the original, but rather making a copy of it. The copy is on top of the original, and this is important for what we're going to do next. Hold down the Shift key to select both compound shapes, then go to the Pathfinder and click on this button here, which uses the top shape to punch a hole in the bottom shape. The result is a nice inline feature. Change the color to something nice and bright to really show it off. Here's the finished type, and this is the type paired with the rest of the logo. This type of illustration may not have as much of a wow factor as a well-done portrait, but while I've never been paid to do a portrait, I get paid to do logos all the time. If you have questions or comments, I'll be happy to reply to them as I have time. I hope you found at least some of the information in this tutorial helpful. Thanks for watching.